Hello and welcome to Main Street Matters by Heart on Main Street, the podcast that knows you can always come back home to where your heart is. I'm your host, Patrick Heiser. I hope you're strapped in tight because today we have much to discuss. A majority of today's episode will cover my Main Street Monday visit to the town of Waukon, Iowa. Truly one of the most unexpectedly delightful visits I have had. So I am very excited to share that with you, but we have a couple housekeeping items to get to before we dive in. Many of you have heard about the devastating storms that have been affecting the central part of the U.S. over the past couple of weeks. A tornado completely destroyed the Main Street area of Sulphur, Oklahoma. An EF4 tornado affected other communities near Tulsa, Oklahoma. Deadly storms have also hit Iowa and Nebraska. Many areas throughout the Gulf Coast are already flooding and anticipating even more rainfall over the next few days. This year alone, hundreds of locally owned independent retail stores have become victims of natural disasters. These unexpected events have affected retailers in every part of the country. Heart on Main Street is currently raising money to help retailers who have lost their stores due to natural disasters. We would love to help out as many as possible. So I ask that if you would like to help or have even enjoyed some of the content through our webinars or this podcast, that you consider making a donation to Heart on Main Street through our website, www.heartonmainstreet.org. If you're not involved or really pay attention to independent retail, you might be wondering why would I want to donate to help these stores in these areas? What's special about them? Don't they have insurance for these things? I'll address that last question first, as sometimes. But insurance can be tricky, and it has changed a lot over the last 5 years. $1 million of insurance has been the fair standard of insurance coverage for a long time. And until recently, that would almost certainly cover any losses sustained by the store. But recently, with the cost of products increasing, the cost of construction increasing, and the cost of everything increasing, $1 million doesn't go as far as it used to, which is crazy. And the cost of that coverage has also increased. So unfortunately, some businesses have decided to decrease coverage to save some money, which of course then exacerbates this issue, or they have chosen to not have some coverages, which is fine until a natural disaster causes that type of damage and they are not protected for that. So yes, retailers have insurance, and sometimes retailers are covered. But other times there's a gap between what the owner is responsible for and what the insurance company will pay, and depending on many other things, including how the event affected other parts of their life, the retailer might not be able to cover that gap and reopen their business. And independent retailers' positions within their community is what makes them so special. There is a whole economic ecosystem that's based around independent retail. They hire local people to work within their stores. They buy from local artisans to give them a place to showcase their products and wares. They employ other local businesses to provide services for the store. So much of the money that goes through an independent retail store goes back into the community in one way or another. And after an event, when retail comes back to the area that's been affected after a natural disaster, it's a sign of hope. The hope of a growing economy and jobs again. Hope of a sense of normalcy in the community again. It shows stability and structure. People speak of retail therapy in terms of shopping your blues away. But the presence of retail returning is therapy for a community that's experienced trauma. So if you have the means to do so, I ask that you please consider making a donation to Heart on Main Street through our website, heartonmainstreet.org. If you'd like, you can even set up a recurring payment for continual support of our cause. Thank you. Our second matter before we hit the road is our upcoming webinar with Crystal Vilkaitis of Crystal Media, which takes place next week, Wednesday, May 22nd at 2 p.m. Eastern. This is an event you do not want to miss. Our conversation will be around how retailers can take advantage of AI to make their lives easier. I love talking to Crystal about kind of everything, but AI in particular. She has such a great big picture view on how AI can affect the industry and how retailers can use it for their business, so I cannot recommend more that you register for this webinar. And then once you register, you can attend, pick her brain, ask her questions. It should be a really good time. You can register for this webinar through our website that once again is heartonmainstreet.org. I will also include the link to the registration in the show description. And if the 2 p.m. Eastern timing of the webinar scares you away, know that anyone who registers for the webinar receives a link to a recording. So you will get it no matter whether you can attend or not. Obviously, I encourage you to attend. There's a lot more benefit in being part of that conversation, but certainly recognize it's in the middle of the day and you might not be able to. And if you want to send in questions ahead of time, you certainly can. You can email contact@heartonmainstreet.org and I will receive those and make sure to ask them during the webinar. And while you're there checking out this webinar, check out our summer webinar series. This June, July, and August, our webinars are all going to be centered around a singular topic, but in different ways. We're going to be looking at buying at the retail level. What are the best buying strategies? How do you prepare for trade shows? How do you work with a sales rep? How can you use online wholesale marketplaces like Faire to grow your business? We will explore all of those topics this summer. We have some great panel discussions planned with retailers from around the country, with people from trade marts, with head of vendors and sales agencies, and with someone from Faire. Again, you can register for those through heartonmainstreet.org. And last thing before we get to our main topic, I realized today that we completely blew by this podcast's first birthday with it going unrecognized. I knew that I started this in May of 2023, but I thought it was later in the month. So a quick second of reflection on this. It has been such a fun year. This podcast has really grown. Thank you to all of those who have reached out and provided feedback or encouragement, and especially those that have invited me to your community based on what you've learned during this podcast. It's so cool to have that connection. I've loved putting this podcast together alongside the nonprofit Heart on Main Street over the past year, and I really look forward to growing both more over this next year. I started this podcast with really no idea of how I would structure my episodes, but I knew I wanted an additional place to talk about what we were doing as an organization with Heart on Main Street. And I have loved the community that has developed around this podcast and Heart on Main Street in general. So thank you so much for sharing in this journey with me. Now let's hit the road and get back out to explore a community that I visited during a Main Street Monday in early April, Waukon, Iowa. As I mentioned in the intro to this episode, this was one of the most delightfully surprising towns that I have visited yet. I was invited to Waukon by a retail owner, the owner of Hello Sunshine in Waukon. I was actually planning on visiting earlier in the year. I believe it was back in February. However, Laura Berryman, the owner of Hello Sunshine, who invited me, said, No, I'm moving locations and I want you to come visit me when I've moved into my new space. Totally understandable, and since she extended the invite, I'd say she gets to call the shots. I then waited until I had the all clear from Laura to come, and Laura ended up emailing me in late March and we arranged a day. She also sent me pictures of her new store and they were stunning. Incredible displays, a great use of color all throughout the store. I was so excited to come visit. As I've mentioned in some previous podcasts, if you would like to follow along visually about the stores that I will talk about, you can go to our Instagram page, Heart on Main Street, check out the highlights. So that's the section on our profile page. There's little circles about every town that I've gone to visit. So if you want to find Waukon, you can go and look at the pictures of these stores and explore along with me. So I was excited to explore Waukon. I knew Hello Sunshine was a beautiful store in this town, but I have to be honest, I had never heard of Waukon, Iowa before, and I didn't know of anyone who had ever heard of Waukon before. This actually turned out to be wrong, as I know someone who has family there, but I didn't find out that until afterward. So I really had no frame of reference for Waukon. I didn't even actually know how to say Waukon. I looked it up online, and there's this whole video about pronouncing different town names in Iowa, and some of them are really difficult or very different than what you'd think. And Waukon wasn't even mentioned in that video. And I'm still not 1,000% sure I'm saying it right. Is it Waukon, Waukon? I'll probably alternate back and forth throughout. But I had no idea what to expect from this town, except that it had one beautiful store. So I packed my car and I headed west to the Driftless area. Now, if you're a frequent listener to this podcast, you may have heard me talk about the Driftless in previous episodes, but if you have not, know that the Driftless is a part of the country that I feel is underknown and underappreciated. Yet I have visited some incredible towns in this part of the country. The Driftless area covers southwest and central part of Wisconsin, southeast Minnesota, northeast Iowa, and the very northwest tip of Illinois. It's an area of the Midwest that is full of rivers cutting through valleys and bluffs and ridges, actual geographic landscape instead of flat plains. And not to turn this into a geology podcast, but this is an area of the country where the last glacial expansion missed, and it didn't smash the landscape of the area into fertile but flat pieces of land. The glacial drift did not hit it, thus it is the driftless area. As a result, you get about 24,000 square miles in the middle of corn and wheat that is scenic and objectively beautiful. As a Midwest boy living in Chicago, there is not much of this around. Those of you out west or in the Appalachians are very used to having the scenery around you and readily accessible to you. But in the Midwest, boy, I get excited to go to the Driftless. Oh, and it turns out that Hello Sunshine was just a sneak peek at the tremendous town that Waukon has become. Throughout the day, I found out that downtown Waukon is experiencing a great resurgence. Over the last decade, there has been a changing of the guard, so to speak, within Waukon, as new stores owned by younger owners have filled up the downtown. Each store I went to raved about their new downtown, the fresh feel, the new energy. They talked about how the younger generation, who once all moved away, has come back and created roots within Waukon. Those roots included opening up new stores downtown. For me, this story is almost too good to be true. This is what I dream of. People from a town invested in the town, growing the downtown, and making it into something special. The first thing I noticed when I arrived in the downtown area was the historical buildings and the freshly painted facades. A fresh coat of paint on an old building can completely transform the area. It breathes life back into the town. The buildings don't look old and weather-beaten, but rather bright and fresh. Historical, yes, and when towns do renovate the facades, there is a strange contrast of something that looks brand new and historical at the same time, but that history is the charm of the downtown, so the effort to make it new again offers a vibrance and enthusiasm to the area. Those that I spoke to said that a lot started at the same place where I started my day, the new coffee shop, Aztec Parlor. The new modern craft coffee, energy drink, refresher drink spot with a huge menu to meet any palate was a revelation for the community. While I stopped in there in the morning and sat down at one of their extremely warm and welcoming tables while I enjoyed a latte, a constant stream of people flowed through the door. Young teenagers with their parents, people on the way to work, other teenagers on the way to school, those out on a morning walk. The coffee shop reached every demographic in town, and everyone loved it. Waukon is a town of about 3,700 people, and I must have seen a decent percentage of them in those 15 minutes that I drank my coffee. Sometimes the downtown does just need one main attraction to bring people in, and everything else can thrive from its existence. My first retail stop of the day was to my host, Laura, at Hello Sunshine. I was excited about this visit because of the pictures that she sent me and because of how she was so excited about her move and about the location and about her town. And I was not disappointed. Her store is gorgeous. Her displays looked like they were out of a magazine. They were so nice. Laura said that she was putting her expensive art degree and a dozen years of retail experience to good use, finally. Her store was one of many that I heard about throughout the day of people being drawn to the area. Laura is originally from Canada, and she moved to Seattle for school, and then got married and made a life on the West Coast. However, her husband has family in the area, and they would visit and fall in love with this part of the country. Next thing you know, the Berrymans moved to Waukon, and Laura has opened up her own retail space. Hello Sunshine is such a wonderful store for the downtown, a beautiful gift, children's and apparel store that brings happiness to the residents' lives. And the new, larger location has been an absolute hit. Laura mentioned that she wanted the bigger space because it would allow her to really spread her products out more and let her accomplish her dream visually. But while I was in the store, several people came in and commented about how much they loved the new space and how much of a difference it made for her. She had just moved a couple doors down, but it was a world of a difference. Her last space was smaller as she was trying out the concept for the store. But once she found out the demand and the need for this type of store in her town, she knew she had to expand and become a permanent fixture. Laura's first location was actually a rented section of where my next stop was in town, Epic Wear. Epic Wear is a local custom print shop that specializes in all things Waukon. They do tons of clothing items for the local high school sports teams, lots of Iowa-based apparel as well, and all sorts of custom printing, embroidery work, and flyers. In the revitalized downtown Waukon, Epic Wear is one of the few stores that's lived on both sides of the change. Its owner, Mandy Halverson, is the executive director of Waukon's Chamber of Commerce and has spearheaded the transformation. Mandy told me how the new retailers in town have really made a concerted effort to support each other and encourage new businesses and look for areas of need for businesses within the downtown. While in Waukon, I also spoke to the head of the County Executive Development and Tourism Bureau, so we'll talk a little bit later about the different things that they've done to increase economic development in the area. A consistent theme that I heard about the new retailers in town was their return to Waukon to open up stores. Mandy mentioned this when she told me about the next store I stopped in, Silver Lane Company. This was started by Brittany, a Waukon native who moved out of town, got a job, had a career in corporate retail. But then during the pandemic, she came back home and opened her own boutique downtown and has watched it grow. Silver Lane carries incredibly trendy, fashionable items and accessories for women and girls. They bring a fun, young boutique vibe that brings life into the downtown area. She's the perfect example of this renaissance within Waukon that people had left and they're coming back. They're bringing their skills. They're seeing needs within the downtown and building a new downtown for Waukon. My next stop was another fun story too. Broker Leather is a Western wear store that sells apparel, boots, jewelry, and hats, everything from casual wear to dressy. They have two big areas of the store, one mostly for selling, and another area that has mostly grown into a studio for videos and social media and a shipping department because they do a good business online as well. The original location of Broker Leather was in a nearby town. However, the owner, a native of Waukon, wanted to support the growth of retail in her town and moved the store to Waukon's downtown. It's inspiring to see people want to come back to the town and change their plans in order to help Waukon's Main Street grow and thrive. My last retail stop of the day was really a story of resilience within Waukon. Paws Up Pet Supplies is another newer retail store in town that has been through a lot in a short period of time. The owner originally took over a different location than where she is now. She opened her store, but after being open for just a few months, the building next door to hers burned down. And unfortunately, the fire spread to her building as well. She ended up losing her shop. She ended up losing everything there. She was able to move to another location in Waukon, but is facing a litany of issues with insurance and receiving payment for her losses. There's another whole drama going on with the building that originally burnt down, and it's not my story to tell, but I will just say that it's not a cut and dry issue that she had insurance should pay for these things. There's other things going on here, and so when retailers face problems with their store or they have to have insurance claims, it doesn't always cover. But Paws Up is an amazing and needed business within Waukon, led by a woman who is passionate about her business and helping Waukon grow. There is no other pet store in the downtown area, yet I saw dozens of furry friends walking around during my afternoon there. So it is a needed business for the area, and once she can get through some of these trials and tribulations of opening her store and the different things that she's gone through, I'm sure Paws Up will be an absolute success within Waukon. One thing I noticed about stores when I visited was that they did fill a need within the town. A new gift store, a new coffee shop, a new boutique, a new Western store, a new pet shop, and this is not to mention even the new restaurants that have also sprung up over the past couple years. All of these stores are filling a vacancy in the ecosystem of downtown Waukon. The emergence of these businesses has brought other businesses as well. The momentum has built, and downtown Waukon is now thriving because of these new owners that have invested in the area. As I mentioned earlier, I did speak with Valeria Reinke, I hope I'm saying your last name correctly, the executive director of Waukon County Economic Development and Tourism. I'm hoping I'm saying the county name correctly. Valerie was kind enough to be interviewed about what all the county and Waukon has going for it and what makes it a place that people want to come back to and why business is thriving in the area. So without further ado, here's my interview with Valeria Reinke. So one thing I'm always really interested in is how do towns support their retailers and make sure that there is support for them, that they're, so with the economic development, how are they able to continue to grow? Are there events that are going on, or what is the town doing in order to help them? And I've seen Waukon be, it seems young, there's a lot of young businesses coming in, a lot of vibrancy there. So what else?
Well, the joys of it all, it ebbs and flows, right? You've got your downtown full, you're humming along, and then all of a sudden things kind of fall out of bed for a variety of reasons. But as of right now, there has been really good momentum over the last few years. And the thing is that that's what we want to see, right? But that just doesn't happen overnight. But so many of our business owners in our downtowns of all of our small towns in Waukon County have been women. Yeah. And the thing is that they kind of like their support network, and they kind of like the collaborating, and they kind of like the fact that, hey, let's all get together and let's do wine with the witches. And yes. I'm sure that the Waukon Chamber would talk a lot about that in regard to, hey, we're going to have a spring fling shopping event this weekend. Or, you know what, it's going to be the hot holidays, so let's have some kind of promotion that's about shopping local for the hot holiday season. So they're really trying to do a lot of that, which is exciting to see, because then you see each other kind of picking each other up, or you'll see somebody tag teaming with someone else. Or they might bring in a pop-up shop for added fun, and you see a lot of these people obviously use social media, and some of them are connected with other businesses through either relation or somehow they know about them, and so it's like, you know what, we're going to do this, so how about if you do this? St. Patrick's Day is always a big deal here in Waukon. That's a big parade. Granted, I wouldn't say it's a big shopping event, but it is a way to discover downtown. And absolutely. It pulls from a little bit further away than 30 miles. So people will come in and be like, hey, there's good places to eat. There's places to get coffee. There's a beautiful park here. there's retail, but then there's a really cool like pet store here, and oh wow, we've got somebody making homemade soap, and then there's your businesses where it's like, I want to try the Mexican food, or I want to try, the big pork tenderloin sandwich, or whatever it might be. But that makes it fun, right? And so it isn't just our local people shopping, but there's a reason to drive. Meaning, I'd drive a half hour to go to Waukon because I can spend many hours in Waukon going here, here, and here. Plus, they've got 4 grocery stores. I can fill up with gas. I mean, it's going to be convenient. But if you've got reason that you want to sit outside, I mean, in the summertime, they bring in live music in the park. They bring in food trucks. So they've got something going on that's really special. And for me, as the economic developer from the county level, I mean, if we can see our communities doing that, I mean, then we've got a stronger county, because you're seeing strong businesses come in, you're seeing mom and pop type of ideas, but yet there's some chain things, there's some corporate things, so there's a good mix. We're always looking to improve sidewalks, and we're always trying to add amenities, and like I said with the farmers market, and then it's like, okay, but on Thursday nights, let's make sure we have live music for like 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, well, let's bring in the food trucks. And that's a way to get those businesses started. I mean, maybe they're our next on Main Street business. I don't know. Yeah. So those are the types of things that I see mostly. We did have a facade program that was countywide, that we had county dollars, and pretty much we let anybody that had a business in the county that needed to do some improvements. For example, when you look across the street and you see the movie theater,
looks great.
It is amazing.
Yes.
And when people actually saw it after it was fixed on the outside, they were like, wow, we have a movie theater. And it's like, actually, the movie theater never left.
Yeah, it's been here, but
it looked a little rough, right? But that is the joy of working with the city and working with a grant at the state level and working with a business owner that wanted to make improvements. And then there was a facade grant that they could help with the windows.
Okay,
and
yeah.
All of a sudden, it's like, oh, okay. Well, then you've got a few other businesses that use the grant. One put in a solar array that kind of sticks out, but also offers shade, and away from the rain. But then we had some other business owners that just put money into their businesses. So all of a sudden, you've got some really nice improvements along your main corridor. So that's a win.
That is a huge win, and the facades look fantastic. So the buildings that have gotten that so far, I mean, the historic buildings, they look great. And so all the updates there, I mean, it really revitalizes, it refreshes the downtown, which is so nice.
You want to hang out,
yeah,
right?
Right.
I mean, when things look a little downtrodden, I mean, it's not quite the same spark to go spend time there. But, we do have a lot of businesses where they're, I think, we talked a little bit about, gifts and decor and things like that before all this. And it's like, I think they're really trying to find their niches so they can work with each other. And it's like, okay, I'm going to run a little bit of a baby line, but I'm going to run, a little bit more full size. And, and I'm going to carry a little more dressy. I'm going to go a little bit more relaxed attire. And you know what? That's great, but that takes communication, and that takes working together. And so I'm glad we have a Chamber of Commerce. I'm glad that I have a lot of my business owners that chit-chat, or they do like a little morning get together.
Okay.
And when that is organic, like you're not forcing it.
You're wanting to do it, right?
They're doing it on their behalf. And then all of a sudden, that sparks more ideas.
Yeah.
I know that they have a fashion show at the end of the month, which I think this is their 3rd year, but they really look as to how they can get even the other businesses with props included, and because we have a pet store, I'm sure in the past they've had pets, and they have been decked out with whatever might be the hot item. So
that's great. I mean, that is so necessary for businesses to work together. I think oftentimes in towns, businesses do maybe like, my secret is my secret, and I don't necessarily want to, and if they're going to spend dollars, I want them to spend it with me and not with you. I'm such a firm believer that any money that is like, if you are helping other businesses within your community, that means more people are coming in, that more people are going to be, you'll have a more vibrant and thriving downtown by everyone being successful together.
totally agree, because at our set of stoplights, our only set, actually, that building there that is now AJ Steakhouse next to the little plaza area there, I mean, that sat empty for decades.
Wow.
Decades.
Wow.
And it was an eyesore. There was somebody that got involved, and it didn't happen, and then it didn't happen. But you know what? The city took that on, and then they did a catalyst grant through the state. They found someone that wanted to put in a business, someone that had a little bit of cash too.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, if we can all work that together by partnering and collaborating, we can probably make something happen. And I mean, that is a 3-story deal there.
And right on the corner too.
Right on the corner.
It hurts me to think that was empty for decades,
Yes.
because that's like is like part of the heart of the main street.
Exactly. So I mean, you really struggle when those things happen in your downtowns, or when you have maybe Main Street building owners that are not here.
Yeah.
And so they don't have to look at it every day. Or it's really easy to let something just kind of slide. And so I think the city is really taking more of a proactive approach. I mean, it doesn't always work out.
Right.
There's still issues and all those good things. It's not utopia.
Yeah.
But I will say that there's some really some other exciting things that are on the horizon for Waukon. So I think that is a huge plus. Plus, Waukon is in the middle of the county. It's very doable to drive to Decorah and to Prairie du Chien and to La Crosse and make that work, and still have great schools. Veterans Memorial Hospital opened up a clinic. Then they opened up a clinic in Postville. They've added a ton of services, which, we all like to have healthcare close.
Yeah.
We all like to have strong schools. We like to have a vibrant downtown. Everybody wants to be able to get their coffee.
Yeah.
They want to have Wi-Fi, which that is the other piece of the puzzle. The city and Al McKee Clayton Electric Cooperative, actually, we will have fiber throughout, I think, by the end of next year.
Okay.
So, anybody that wants access to that,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, we have that here in Waukon. We have it in some other communities too, and we're growing that, but right here in Waukon, especially if you're going to be the person to take the new teaching job or the new position at the hospital, if you have a traveling, significant other, but maybe they want a home office.
Yeah.
A lot of times you got to have fiber.
More and more people working from home, that is such an important thing.
It's a huge piece. And then you can have your kayak, and you can be 10 minutes away from dumping in and going kayaking. Or if you love to hike, I hike every morning on our own farm. But, it's like Yellow River State Forest is 9,000 acres.
Wow, okay.
With a lot of trails. And then Effigy Mounds is our national monument, which has beautiful trails and just a ton of culture and history. So you can do all of that right here.
Yeah.
Basically 20 minutes away from Waukon.
Yeah.
But I will say the Upper Iowa, probably the most requested brochure would be the Trout Guide.
Okay. Yeah.
For people that love to trout fish, there's a lot of options for that. And fly fishing, you can do that here. You can go to Wyoming too.
Yeah, right. But
we can do that here.
And that's one thing I'm always impressed by the Driftless area is from the Chicago area, it's much flatter. You get 100 miles away from here, and it's kind of what you stereotype think of the Midwest.
Yes.
You have this little gem of great geography and all of those things, having national parks and fishing and mountain-ish areas. There's so much to do.
Now that they have the trails on Mount Hosmer, and you can take your fat tire bikes and stuff, if you're into that, I would probably get hurt. But if you're into that, they've got that.
Yeah.
And so, we even look at if we're building apartments here, we know that we want them to be 2-bedroom because of the officing thing. We know that there has to be enough storage that if they fat tire bike, if they kayak, if they fish or whatever, that we want them to have those things, because if you enjoy the area, you're going to stay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. Oh, there's so much to offer here, and it's still kind of a secret.
Yeah.
I guess you would say, because I mean we're not a metropolis.
Right.
We're over 14,000 people in the county.
Okay.
And Waukon is our county seat, and obviously there's a lot that happens here. It can still be very ag
Yeah.
centered. Because I mean, on a rain day, you're going to see a lot of farmers in town doing their banking and getting their hair cut and doing their stuff. But I'm excited to see what's on the horizon.
Yeah. So you kind of alluded that there are some things on the horizon. Anything that you can share, or no? Okay, fair enough. That's okay.
It's just another reason to come back.
just another reason. But I do love that of the store owners that I've been meeting with today, so many of them grew up in Waukon, have moved away, wanted to come back, wanted to open up a store here, wanted to really be a part of the downtown in the community, which is unique and special and really talks to Waukon and what
it does.
What people want from this town.
I would agree with that, and so we will continue to use social media and things that you offer. We've got great video. We have something coming out on Travel Iowa that speaks to a lot of that hiking and that's along the east side, but people just don't realize that you don't have to fly over. You actually want to come.
Yeah. I mean, the area is like, there is so much to offer here, which is amazing.
And you say you're from Chicago. I mean, we actually have a new travel guide, and we decided to use like the Milwaukee, Madison, west side of Chicago to kind of put that on the shelf.
Absolutely.
Even though a lot of people don't always pick up, but we do have a lot of people that do pick up. And it's like we're not that far off of I-90, so that I-94, I-90, I-35 is kind of a beautiful deal. It's just trying to get it into the right hands of folks. And you know what? That could be our next manufacturing business. That could be our next something. Where somebody is like, you know what? I would love to live there and raise my family there, so what can we do there?
Yeah, and it's a beautiful part of the country to and bring people to. So
right. I mean, no, we are not on a 4-lane highway, but we are not that far from I-90.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like, not being on the highway is an okay thing.
Right, right. Yeah. And depending on what that business would be, but there's opportunities because we have like the Agra, where they probably have over 400 employees. That's our biggest employer in Postville, and it is a kill facility.
Okay.
But yet there's things with that make sense, when you think about clusters, because then we have an Avika where, you might have the yeast powder and some things like that. And I mean, they bring people in from all over the world where they're doing projects. And so it's like, okay, well, that's kind of a food type of thing. Well, then I have something like a WW Homestead Dairy, which is the cheese curd capital of Iowa. But I mean, that is a vertical business where they milk the cows, they make the ice cream, they make the cottage cheese, they make the butter. Yeah. They have a facility here. They do send out to a radius. So there's all these things that kind of fit into that cluster, but then we've got some other manufacturing too, where you're just like, like the reels for like all of the fiber.
Okay.
Or you have a Kogel that is making all of the racks and things that you would see in like a convenience store. And that's all happening
all within
here.
Alameda County. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I didn't know.
So, and then, we've got somebody else that, I mean, they make beds that can go home, that can help you with physical, issues and things like that, where you're just like, they make those here. Yes.
Yeah.
And then in Lansing, I've got Tough Tech Metals, where that was Lansing Housing Products. Tough Tech Metals just is more descriptive of what they do. But believe it or not, they are known for the screens that are so tough that it would, I mean, the studies that they've done and the research, but you hear about children falling out of windows.
Yeah.
Okay, that is that market.
Okay.
And so they are in military housing, and they are doing HUD housing, and they have actually started working with schools because it's another reinforcement in windows.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, cool stuff.
Yeah.
Cool stuff that happens. And our communities have that, and sometimes it's just a matter of We had no idea. So of course we work with our students and make sure that they go to the manufacturing facilities, make sure that the Pool 9 people of our beautiful Pool 9 on the Mississippi, that they know why that's so fucking amazing, you know, because you kind of got to share it, because not all of them.
And you want them to know that there's employment opportunities in the area. So it's not, I want to graduate and go off to somewhere else, but there are things within my town that I can grow into, and I can have a good job here, and I can stay here, and I can raise my family here.
I would totally agree with that. I mean, Waukon Feed Ranch, I mean, that is large pork facilities and do amazing things. And now, I mean, they also have a construction part because they make the buildings. And, you know, I mean, you see these growth opportunities, but yet Harley Davidson, I mean.
Interesting,
I mean, that's like a destination for people that are motorcycle riders, you know? So you're like, okay. But, you know, then I think about Norplex, and I mean, they make things that actually I think go in the space shuttle, because it's the boards that would be like in front of your cashier area, like at a Quick Star. You know, it's like, I'm trying to think of what that's called, but anyways, lots of stuff.
So like the,
what am I trying to say?
Plexiglass, or like the...
Yeah, it's like the it's not particle board, but it is... I'm not going to come up with it right now.
We'll think of the name later.
But yeah, I mean, you know, you just start thinking about the fact that you can live, work, and play right here. But I mean, it is possible that your spouse might work in the county next to you, or you might have your kids in the daycare here, and they might go to school here, and you're looking for a house here. Or you might be just outside in Clayton County, you know. The thing is that I think when you look at the numbers, most people are very willing to drive 25 minutes to work.
I mean, it's not, driving 25 minutes in the area is not bad. You could get there.
I drive it every day. But, you know, I live right on that Iowa-Minnesota border. I happen to marry a farmer, and you can't move the farm. So,
nope, that's one thing you can't do.
That is something that, you know, we have beef and grain, and that is a part of a century farm that's been generation after generation. And you see a lot of that too.
So are you encouraging businesses to come to Waukon, or to come to Alameda County? Well,
you know, it isn't like they're like, Alameda County, here I come. I mean, you know, it's not like we're going to register that way. We do know that we need to stay in touch with alumni. We do know that we need to know who our businesses are and what clusters might make sense. You know, but I mean, if somebody's coming in and they need 150 employees, I mean, that's going to be a little tough right here. Now, if somebody wants to come in and they're looking 20 employees or less in the right cluster, it could make a ton of sense. You know, there are things that I can't say that we have huge industrial parks and that, you know, you're going to bring in 1,000, you know, square or 100,000 square foot facility. You know, those are few and far between.
That's not,
you know, but if they fit within the clusters, and if they fit with the employees, or maybe we have a welding lab at the Waukon High School here, you know, just because there's businesses that, you know, need that type of employee, and that they work within the welding lab to bring those people out to work for them. You know, so it's working smart. I mean, I also look at it as, look at the kayaking and the fishing and the hunting and, you know, all of that. And there are businesses like that, but you also see a small business where all of a sudden they're making fishing spinners, you know, and you're just like, okay, but that makes sense. You know, I just had someone that I met, and she's in Decorah, but they've got an earthworm business. Well, yeah. I mean, with all the fishing. So, you know, and the thing is that they're going to, you know, cover however many mile radius. And so that works for us too.
Good.
So,
It sounds like there's a lot going on here, which is...
Well, there is. I mean, it's not like when it comes to incentives and things like that. I mean, people connect with us. We find out what they're doing and what kind of building they're looking for, how big that staff is. And I mean, a lot of, one-on-one. And I mean, we're going to help them every step of the way to try and make sure. But I mean, we also have to be realistic. I mean, you know.
Right, that you want it, like a good business for the area that makes sense in the area that, and...
Well, that we would have employees that makes sense, or they would be bringing in employees that we could recruit that would love this area.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you can bring in an engineer, and I mean, if they're like, there's only one stoplight in town, I mean, that's a little hard to adjust to. But
Absolutely.
for some people, they're like,
this is what I want. Right.
I totally want this.
Yeah.
I want to be able to go down the street and have ice cream, and I want to be able to go buy my groceries and see my checkout person, and then go to the bank. And
everyone knows my name, and I know their name.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. And we just had somebody from Florida that moved here, and him and his wife, and I'm excited to send them on the Driftless Area Scenic Byway, just so they can be like, okay, this is what this is, and then come on in, and it's like, okay, what do you like to do, and what kinds of things are you looking for, and then connect them.
Yeah.
I mean, that we connect a lot of dots.
Good.
That's our job, I guess.
Yeah. Connect people to what they want to do, and make sure that they're
and try to make sure that you're connecting them. So, I mean, it is hard sometimes to be a part of a community where you're just like, oh my gosh, everybody knows each other. Well, we don't know everybody.
Right.
And so it's like, all right, what can we do to introduce them to some folks that would probably take them to the next event?
Okay.
And help them create those relationships that make sense. Because, if you didn't graduate with a certain class, it's okay. I mean, I'm from across the border too. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm from Minnesota, and I still seem to be doing okay.
You don't have to know everyone in the town, or
you don't. I mean, but it is strange sometimes because you're just like, so who do you belong to? It's like, I'm an implant. That's okay.
Oh, your last name, is that connected? Are you related to? It's like, not at all, actually. Just, it's a common last name.
Exactly it. But you know what? There's even like a hiking group where it's like, hey, so meet them at 5:00 at Luster Heights and go. It's like, okay,
good.
And then that's how you meet people.
Yeah. It's good development of the community, and again, getting people to stay here. And
well, it is important to know what's out your back door.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of awareness just within, because sometimes it's like, well, I went to Effigy Mountains when I was in 5th grade. I haven't been back. I'm like, oh, you haven't been back, and you only did the North Road. I'm like, have you ever done the South Route? Because when you look back at the marching bears, it's religious.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it's like bear after bear after bear in the earth at that shape.
Gosh, yeah.
And you're just like, no way. And how did I go do that? Not with my family. Hey, there's going to be, a park ranger that's going to go at 2:00 in the afternoon. So anybody that wants to go, and there was like 10 of us, none of us knew each other.
Yeah.
But you know what? We had a ball.
How fun, yeah.
And we learned so much because of how the sun rises and how it sets and how the mounds are in alignment.
Okay.
And it's crazy. I mean, I did not know. I've walked the North Route, and I love the lookouts, but the South Route and the marching bears, I'm like, you got to go do it to see it, to know what that means. I mean, I haven't
done it, so I can only picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it is really fun to get to know the park rangers out there. They're not park rangers, but they the knowledge that they have, and like they're doing a big thing for the eclipse and stuff like that, and. We've brought our Sunday school kids out there. We've brought youth group out there. I've gone, my kids farm. So, I mean, they're like, I'm going to walk up a hill. And I'm like, yeah, but, they haul dirt to like create these mounds. I mean, for years and decades.
Very cool. Yeah.
And it's hard to put your arms around that, I guess. But if a person can take, the routes, kind of a hike.
Okay.
But they do have a handicap accessibility where you can like go under a tunnel and across a bridge, and you will probably see all kinds of wildlife while you're doing that. Yeah. But yeah, they've had some really cool events out there.
And that is one of those things that, if you went to it when you were 5th grade, you don't appreciate that, and you forget that it exists there, and you don't recognize
it's like,
that.
You should go back.
I have this in my backyard that I can go to, and
yes.
Yes.
And, Yellow River State Forest, there is a fire tower there that, I think it's the only fire tower in Iowa, but a lot of people walk that route so they can, you can't crawl up in it.
Okay.
It's like, oh, wow. And then you look out and it's like, okay, 9,000 acres of amazing,
Wow.
And so you're just like, okay. Hey, but you got to go take time to do that. A lot of people do horseback ride through there.
Okay, yeah.
And do some things like that. But for me, I've done some hiking, and it's well worth the time. Worth the time. Plus, I mean, helps you kind of get in touch with.
Yeah, and relax a little bit and
yes,
get out.
No screen time.
Yes.
I mean, not that you don't want to bring your camera, but sometimes, you just.
It's nice to be away from those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they have a big 5K, 10K half marathon at the Yellow River in May.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And they do a Driftless flyathlon at Yellow River.
Okay.
And that is something that started out in Cook, Colorado. And they actually do it here at Yellow River State Forest. But you fly fish, you hike, and you taste craft beer.
Oh, perfect. Like that's
I'm telling you,
if you're an outdoorsy person, right? That's
year.
yeah.
And it's okay if you don't know how to fly fish.
Yeah.
Because they will totally help you. So I'm like, that sells out every year.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's a thing, and it raises money to care for. It might be stream bank improvements, or it might be for a variety of things. But it is to help Yellow River State Forest stay amazing.
Yeah.
And so we love that. And if you've heard of dark sky types of things where there's only so many in the U.S., but Yellow River State Forest at some point will be a dark sky location.
Okay.
But it's one of those places where, stargazing.
Yeah.
And look at how many people want to unplug.
Right.
And for someone that is from the Chicago area, I mean, this isn't that far away.
Yeah, and I don't get to see stars. And
option to do that. And so the Friends of Yellow River State Forest, very active group. Always they do camp cooking, and they do firewood chopping, and they do trail runs, and just that they do a lot of bird watching out there. So
yeah.
There's some pretty neat things happening.
There's a lot of great things going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. So well beyond Waukon, granted, and that's why you're here today. But Waukon, I mean, that's just a hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah. Good.
But yeah.
I appreciate. Thank you so much for filling me in and letting me know, because there's, I mean, again, there's so much going on here. So. Yeah. All right, that is a wrap for today. I hope you all have enjoyed this episode as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. This episode is written, produced, researched, and edited by me, Patrick Kaiser, with a very special thanks to the City of Waukon and Valeria Reinke. For more information on Heart on Main Street, you can visit our website, heartonmainstreet.org. And if you'd like your town or store even to be featured on Main Street Monday, email me at contact@heartonmainstreet.org. Stay safe, have a great week, shop small, and I'll see you all next time.